Hello and welcome to the channel. We are going to be talking today about something a little different. We are going to be talking today about a project gun that I'm going to be working on, and I'm first going to do a bit of a rundown of the base stock gun, talk a little bit about its stats, and then the second part of this video will come after I've done the upgrades, and we'll talk about the upgrades in more detail and the output from the gun at that point in time. So before we get started, if you like today's video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more of the content on the channel, please subscribe to the channel, and remember to hit the bell notification icon so you get notified when we post new content. So let's kick off, and we're going to be talking about the Tokyo Marui Sig Sauer P226 E2. I recently acquired this gun on a premise of I am going to do upgrades on it. I am literally going to take the stock gun, never skirmished it before, and then just upgrade it with sort of a whole bunch of upgrades, and kind of see how it fares after I've done the upgrades. I have taken some stock FPS readings on the gun, and I will sort of brief those in this video. So this is the gun in question. As I say, it's the P226 E. I'm not going to do an unboxing or anything else. I'm just going to talk about the gun as it is at the moment. I've got the manuals here because essentially this is kind of important for this sort of what we're going to be doing, and just to talk about some of the gun's differences and how it works and is structured. But suffice to say, this is a stock gun. The P226 family of guns with Tokyo Marui, there are essentially two. There is the P226 rail, and then there's the P226E. They are fundamentally the same gun, except for some differences which are kind of listed on here. The differences are basically around the various parts and the kind of the sizing and everything else. So in essence, what we've got here is the 226 rail. This guy has, in its manual, we've got sort of the blowout diagram which talks about the various different components and how they go in the gun. Now in the 226 E2, the differences are these red boxes on this diagram here, and essentially these highlight the main places where there are differences. Now, one of the reasons I bring this up is one of the things I want to do, and it's part of the project, but it's not going to be the initial phase, is I want to sort of style this gun after the P226 Navy. And in order to do that, I want to basically use the P226 Navy upper slide, so that basically I can have those markings and everything else, but I still want the E2 lower. Now, just to sort of highlight the differences, so on this gun here, the differences are listed. There's some changes to the magazine. Basically it's a bit more gas efficient, stronger spring. That's kind of the main things on this. Otherwise, it's fundamentally the same as the P226 rail pistol mag. The next sort of thing is the slide. Now, this is actually important for the project. The slide on this, as far as I can make out, the only difference is the logos and the markings. So on the E2, there is an E2 marking here. The iron sights, which are pretty straightforward and pretty clear. Got two dots, a nice dot there, very clear view on those sights as you look down them. It's very sort of straightforward. The slide is different in the sense it is essentially just cosmetic. From what I can ascertain, if you take the P226 rail slide and pop them on one of the E2 lowers, it will function perfectly fine. So that actually plays into my upgrade plans quite handily. The other things that have changed are around the components that go into the lower frame. One of the main differences between this and the rail is the E2 has a smaller pistol grip. It's a little bit smaller to hold, tighter, and everything else. So a lot of the internals and the frame have changed to fit into this size. So when it comes to doing the upgrade, what I will be basing the initial build on is an E2 upper and lower that are basically an aftermarket upper and lower, and I'll basically be moving over the components into that. So that's kind of what I'll be doing at a high level. I'm going to talk a little bit about the internals now, and also a little bit about the action of this gun. So just to kind of go over what we have here, this is the 226 E2. Some of the kind of the fundamentals on this gun. We have mag release here. We've got a nice mag well there. Mag release, very straightforward. In goes the mag. Nice and flush, which is really handy on this type of gun. Mag release drops out, very clean unload. Next we have the decocking handle. So this gun is a dual action gun. So you pull the trigger and it will cock, and then it will fire. So the other thing you can do is you can cock like so, and then it will full cock, pulling the trigger back, ready to fire. Now to decock the gun, you press this slider down, that will decock and release, and it will release the hammer completely. When the gun is firing and the slide locks back, this is the slide release, and you will just sort of release the slide. It will pop forward when you're changing magazine. This control here is for disassembly. So this lever here, and I'm just going to take this out. If I want to actually disassemble the gun, I pull that forward, and that will allow me to strip the gun into two components, which leads nicely on to what we're going to talk about next. So I'm going to pop this down. This is the lower frame. We'll talk about that in a minute. This is the upper. Fairly straightforward. We have our spring guide. We have our hop. Inner barrel is underneath there in the outer barrel. We've got our nozzle, and we've got a nozzle housing. There's a couple of screws back there for attaching the nozzle housing to the frame, and it also probably holds in those iron sights. In terms of hop, and I'm just going to use this to highlight this, just here is the hop. Fairly easy to adjust as it is in stock. What we will be doing when we are doing our upgrades is we will actually be stripping out most of these internals and replacing them with aftermarket. So we'll be changing the spring guide, the spring, the hop, the inner barrel, the outer barrel, the nozzle housing, and the piston. And we'll also be changing the slide. So effectively, what I've got in my hand will probably be getting thrown away, except for screws and the iron sights. So that's pretty much all that's going to be kept of that. The lower, we have the trigger mechanism here and the slide release. As you can see, if we pull the trigger here, you'll see the trigger mechanism operating, and that's fairly straightforward. We've got our kind of various in here. We've got the mag stop. We've got the actual essentially hammer, the thing that basically taps the gas release valve, and then inside of here we have all the springs and the sear, and also we've got the hammer spring down here. We'll be replacing the recoil spring with a 150, and we'll be replacing the hammer spring as well, to make it a little bit easier to use. Things like power up gas from Garda and so on, and actually keep the gas efficiency of the gun. So all in all, what we're going to do with this lower when we come to do change is the lower frame will change. We'll be adding some springs, and I can't remember if I've actually ordered a hammer and a sear. I've got a feeling I have, so those will be getting changed as well. I will be keeping the pistol grips and essentially all of the furniture you can see here, and then obviously everything that's connected to these, the sort of standard elements for the trigger housing and so on, they'll all get transposed over. So effectively that's what we'll be doing with the gun at a high level. And I've just got to, this is just a little bit of a, and I've done this a couple of times, it just doesn't always go first time. So yeah, so this is basically what we'll be doing with this gun. Now in terms of the performance as it is now, the performance now, and I've tested this on essentially 2 gases, because essentially as a Tokyo Marui, it's designed to operate on 1448 gas. And on 1448 gas with a 0.2 gram BB, this averages at 245 FPS, a max of 253, and a min of 238. With stronger gas in there, so using a green gas, and in my case I was using ASG Ultra Air, with the same 0.2 gram BBs, this basically averaged 267, a minimum of 263, and a max of 273. So that's basically the performance of this gun at stock. So one of the things we'll do in the sort of aftermath of the upgrades is we will re-chrono the gun and see how it is performing with the new parts, and see how much of an improvement hopefully we get when we do the upgrade. So with that in mind, that's pretty much the kind of rundown of this little project gun and what we'll be doing with it. The part 2 of that will become as soon as those parts will arrive, actually, which could be in a few days. I will be getting a video up as soon as possible afterwards. So thank you all for watching. If you found today's video useful and interesting, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, hit that notification bell so you get updated when we post new content. So thank you for watching today. Have a great day. Thank you and goodbye.